I was speaking with a wedding planner the other day, and in our conversation, she casually mentioned that this entrepreneurship thing, forgive me, is one of those words that I struggle with. So let me just substitute it for business. So she said, this business thing isn't easy. Nobody told us it would be this difficult. And of course, we had a laugh about that. And I told her point blank, my own view on these things. And I said, yeah, it's not easy and there are lots of difficulties. Well, she's a parent just like I am. But I mentioned to her that it's worth it because, well, if we do our part really well, it's going to succeed. And so the returns that we're going to get will more than match the risk and the difficulty that we have taken. So the reward is going to exceed the level of risk and discomfort. But another thing that I pointed out to her was that those of us who are trying to build businesses now, or one kind of endeavor or the other, our kids are watching, and so because of that, they are learning. For those of you who've been listening for a while, you might remember the episode where I spoke about my experience with my mom coming to Lagos right after my folks' marriage hit some difficulties. So she was there in Lagos with 5 kids, and trying to hustle, trying to get a job, and then trying to do one or two business deals on the side there. And my own opinion that I guess was watching her do all that, as well as watching my father try a couple of things back in Abuja at the time, like being a cement distributor. So I think was watching all of that that kind of gave us, that's my brother and I, the invisible capital, as it's called in American business circles, the invisible capital to go ahead and take that step to pursue something that we think is interesting or worth building. Now, if this is your first time of listening to the podcast, the idea of invisible capital is the idea that when kids grow up, there are certain things that they pick up in their environment from osmosis. And so it turns out to be an asset. And so that's what invisible capital is. So, in other words, if you're born in an entrepreneurial family, then business and entrepreneurship doesn't seem that risky because from day one, that's what you've seen mommy do, that's what you've seen daddy do. So, if you grew up in one of those businesses where, daddy owned a medical practice and maybe mommy owned an accounting practice, for you, it's not that big of a deal to think that, okay, now you're in law school and then when you're done, you're going to open up a legal practice of your own or a dentistry practice of your own. And that's because of the invisible capital. So even though things are difficult, let's hang in there, do the best we can. And let's remember that we're having some unintended side effects. One of them being that the little boys and girls who are coming behind us are watching and they're learning and they're growing. But let's try and keep it a positive experience because I've seen families, on the other hand, where the experience wasn't too positive and it has ended up scaring people away from the entrepreneurial journey. So I've heard things like, dad hustled, we made a lot of money, but he was never around and I want to be around for my children. Therefore, I'm not going to be an entrepreneur. I'll do 9 to 5 so I can have control of my time. So I guess that's not a bad argument to make, although I don't quite agree with it for different reasons. Something we could talk about in another episode. But bottom line is what I'm trying to say is that let's do our best and let's make this a positive experience so that it doesn't end up scaring our kids away from the whole entrepreneurship, entrepreneurial endeavors. So let's do the best we can. It's not going to be a bed of roses, but if we do our best, the potential rewards are much greater in proportion to the risk and the headache that we go through. And plus, let's start educating little tycoons in our household, if I can put it that way. So your 2-year-old, your 3-year-old, your 5-year-old, they're watching and they're learning. So that's another reason why you should hang in there, because things are changing. It's no longer our parents' economy. Job security is not guaranteed. I mean, even in my parents' time, They got a taste of that, even though my father worked with the National Television Authority and then later on he moved to the National Orientation Agency. It's become clear that job security is not guaranteed. Organizations have their own incentives and they're going to do your own thing. You're just a cog, you're just a resource, and they'll use you until they're done. But the incentives are not aligned. The incentive of the organization is not aligned in the same way that your own incentives as an employee is. So, job security is not a guarantee. There are no guarantees, but I really think that entrepreneurship is a safer route in terms of risk and reward. Anyway, that's just my own private point of view. So the whole point of coming on today to make this recording is to say it's not easy, but hang in there. The rewards will come, and someone is watching and learning. So thank you very much for listening to the Sales for the Nigerian Wedding Industry podcast. I'm your host, Abuja-based business consultant and event media professional, Tavishima Ayede. Thanks for your time and attention. I'll catch you guys at the next recording.